We're going to look at installing a PM tuning race crank onto a modified crankcase. First of all, we're just going to have a look at some of the things that we need to look out for with regards to crankcase integrity. This hole in particular here, sometimes the factory drills is too deep, and consequently what you end up with is you end up with a hole here in the side of the crankcase. This can let air into the crankcase and cause the engine to run lane, so be mindful of this. As you can see on this particular one here, this has been repaired. As you can also see on this crankcase, it's been modified to run a Pro Street Signature Series. Now, the beauty of the Pro Street Signature Series, it's got lots of material around the crankcase joining mouth. And what we do is we take advantage of that by extending this mating face here, which I'll demonstrate shortly. Right, here we have a PM Tuning Pro Street Signature cylinder. As you can see, the mating face on the cylinder is much bigger than the Molossi or the standard cylinder arrangement. This allows us to extend the transfer entry area to at least another 4 or 5 millimetres going this way, and that still leaves plenty of meat here on the gasket face to allow a good seal on the gasket. Now, if you take this cylinder out and leave approximately 4 to 5 millimetres here, you'll end up breaking off the edge of the crankcase here. So what we do, if you can see that with the camera, you can see where we pack this with epoxy, and this just supports the gasket to prevent the gasket splitting and falling away on assembly. So we can take advantage of that with our cylinder kit. The other thing to note is on the 180 crankcases, what they do at the factory is they bore the crankcase mouth out in order to fit a much wider skirt. This leaves an undesirable step here in the bottom of the transfer. So what we do again is we use some epoxy, we go in and we fill that, and then we re-drill the oil feed for the main bearing. One of the things we always do here in the workshop is we make sure that this surface here and this surface here, the two mating halves, are perfectly flat. Now the best way to do this is on some 380 grit paper. You can use a little bit of WD-40 or something similar to that, and you would use a circular motion, pressing evenly on all corners. Keep rotating this at 90 degrees as you rub it in order to get a nice even surface. Do that on both the main crankcase and the crankcase half. Okay, I'm going to look at the crankshaft now. This is a 54mm stroke PM tuning crankshaft. Don't just assume that because the crankshaft is new it's going to be perfectly straight. The chances are 99.9% of the time it's going to be. But what we also like to do here is just put it on some centres and just check the crank for trueness. We'll do this on a revolving on a centre. Locking that down. Now you can use the centres on new cranks, but if you've got an old crank and you're doing the same thing, you're probably best to run it up on the tops of the V's just in case there's any damage occurred on the end of the crank by extraction or somebody being a bit heavy-handed with a hammer. So again, we take these gauges and we put the gauge on the shoulder. So, just take the crank and spin it. That's running absolutely spot on. Again, check both shoulders just to make sure there's no run out on either end of the shaft. Okay, once you're happy with the surfaces of the crankcase halves and you're happy that everything's the way it is, make sure everything's nice and clean. And then you need to proceed with installing a new water pump kit. Now it's always a good idea to replace one of these, even if you think the bearings and seals are in good shape, because the last thing you want to do is put the engine casings together and find you've got a leak and have to pull the whole thing down again. Now a lot of people damage these seals by trying to knock them in. That's because you're going into quite a deep shaft here, as you can see, and there's a step in the bottom. Now what we came up with, we designed our own installation tool here, which will be available off the website. And the idea is that locates into there, like so, and that allows the seal to be held correctly and squarely whilst the tool drops down into the hole, keeping the thing nice and straight and allowing you to install without damage. Now we'll pop a little bit of grease on there and pop that in.